Such a lovely morning so far. My partner and I are admittedly both sleepers. Hi, Jojo. Yay. Um, Jojo, I can't wait to hop on the phone with you here in the next few days. Um, my partner and I are admittedly sleepers, and so a lot of times we'll sleep up until we don't have to anymore. But today we both got up and had coffee, and there was this beautiful pileated woodpecker outside in our backyard, and it's freezing here and snowing. It's -6. It was -12 overnight. Um, so it's just been kind of this cozy, lovely, beautiful morning, and now I'm excited to share it with all of you. So thank you so much for everyone for showing up live today. I see some of you on Facebook, some of you on Instagram. Thank you for showing up for me, for showing up for yourselves, for showing up for this work. This is why I do the morning ritual, because usually when we wake up in the morning, like I just said, we kind of fall out of bed and hit the ground running, and our subconscious likes to pick up where we left off the night before. And if things are going well for you in your life, then that works. But if you've got any sort of baggage, any sort of story, any sort of belief or way of being that isn't serving you, and you just keep dragging it with you day by day by day by day, that becomes your personality. It becomes your reality. So what we're here to do is we're here to interrupt that. We're here to say, you know what, I'm here to consciously live my life on purpose instead of unconsciously accepting all the things that happen to me as truth. And so I'm here to participate differently with all of this. I'm here to participate consciously, okay? And so this is a ritual meant to bring us all together, to interrupt that pattern, and to hopefully infuse all of our lives with a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of inspiration, so that we can live differently. All right, my friends. So today we're talking specifically about living the yogic niyamas. And this is one of our 8 limbs on the 8-limbed path of the yoga experience. And these are concepts that I feel get overlooked in the yoga space, that we go straight to the physical asana and sort of neglect some of these more subtle pieces. And that's not bad or wrong. It makes perfect sense. In fact, the company that I worked for over a decade, teaching yoga, believes that we use the physical body to get people in the door, and then once they're in the door, then we have this opportunity to talk to all the subtle layers. So it's not bad or wrong for you to lead with your body. In fact, I believe the body is the gateway to so many other deeper places. So we just can't stop there, right? And our culture has a tendency just to stop after we get what we want. And so this is a conversation about what would happen if we didn't stop at the physical layer. What would happen if we didn't stop once we, quote unquote, achieved the body that we wanted, or the physical practice that we wanted? Like, what would happen if we didn't stop, but rather we kept going? Oh, that's such a beautiful concept. Before we start, I'd like to call on some of our Reiki energy, so that these concepts might hit us a little bit differently. So what we'll do is I'll just raise our hands up to the sky. And when I do this, it's so amazing. I can just feel the warmth on my palms immediately. And so Reiki energy is just healing energy from the heavens, from the universe, from whatever you believe in. So just close your eyes, maybe turn your face up towards the sky, and just receive some goodness. Receive some goodness straight into your palms. Maybe you feel it like a laser beam into your hands, or maybe it's more like a soft sprinkling. There's no right or wrong. Just receive it. Take a few moments to let the love of life, the love of the universe, the love of God infiltrate you, fill your hands, your whole system. Just breathe deeply, take it all into your palms. And then as you're ready, my friends, all we'll do is we'll take one hand to the forehead and one hand to the occiput, the back side of your head, right? And just hold that energy. I can feel the heat from my palms on my forehead now. Just allow that love to radiate into your mind. And ask this Reiki energy to break up any obstacles, any barriers, any blockages that might prevent this knowledge, this wisdom from entering in. And ask your mind to show you opportunities and places for you to apply this work in your life. And allow the Reiki to infiltrate and penetrate so that your mind can be open to all of this goodness. Good. And then as you're ready, go ahead and take one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly. And with the same intention here, we've been taught here in the West that it's all about the mind, to figure it out, to be logical. But I know from my own experience and my experience with my clients that we are multi-layered beings. And it's not enough just to understand something, because if that were the case, we'd all read the book and then we'd be on our way. But it's about understanding this information in our minds, in our skull brains, and then allowing that information to permeate down below the neck into the nervous system, into the tissues, into the very being, the fibers of your being in your body. I tell my clients all the time that your new thoughts are only as powerful as your body will believe you. And so right here, right now, let's do the same, ask the same request of our bodies as we just did of our minds. That if there are any blockages, any contractions, any places that are in protection mode, any places inside of your body that want to cling to your story, to the path that you're already on, just ask that those knots would unravel ever so slightly, that we would be just a little more open to receive the medicine, to receive the goodness, that we might be even more whole. And take a full breath in and a big breath out. And as you're ready, open your eyes, come on back. Well, that concludes our morning ritual for today. I feel like that was amazing. Just kidding, we're not done. That was just the preparatory sort of ceremony that we took in order to allow all this goodness in. So thank you for being willing to do that. And so now with open hearts, open minds, open bodies, we embark upon this conversation of the yogic niyamas. Just in case you're wondering, a lot of my work is sourced from Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and the Niyamas. This is such a beautiful resource for understanding these concepts. So I want to give her a lot of credit because she's really helped me to understand how to apply these concepts in everyday life. Good morning, Twee. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all. So just to set the scene quickly, there's this thing out there called the 8-limbed path. You may have heard of it, the 8-limbed path of yoga. And this system was put into place by a man named Patanjali. And we don't actually know if it was one man or a panel of men. And that's very common for all of the ancient scriptures and texts, is to not really know if it was a communal effort or an individual effort. But nonetheless, Patanjali is the word that we use for this individual or group of individuals that set this structure, this skeleton for the way that we experience yoga today. And for the longest time, I even had the belief or the understanding that you kind of go along the 8-limbed path, and as you move up the chain, you become more evolved, and then ultimately like you achieve the goal. And what I'm realizing now is that that isn't the case, and it never has been. And that these 8 limbs aren't just a one and done, check them off, but there's actually a relationship between all 8 of the limbs. And so the first 2 limbs are the yamas and the niyamas, and these are the core of our yogic philosophy. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the yamas, and the yamas are our restraints, the things that the yoga tells us not to do. And these are a set of 5 principles that generally tell us how to interface out in the world. But the way I presented them a couple of weeks ago is that the way to understand them out in the world is to actually apply them to yourself. Right? So non-harming, non-violence makes a lot of sense. That actually, I already had this conversation. So I'm working on being more concise. So you can go back and watch that replay if you want to hear a little bit more about the yamas. So the yamas tell us what not to do, and they give us a context of how to live in community. The niyamas, rather, are a list of observances. So there are five things to do, right? We already have the list of five things not to do. So here are five things to do, and these really genuinely point us into towards our relationship with ourselves. And that's what we're going to discuss today. From the yamas and niyamas, then we have asana, which is the physical practice that most of us are most familiar with, the physical practice. And then from the physical practice, we have pratyahara, which is the breath practice, breath to movement. That's what we experience in vinyasa. And then when we power all that together, when we invigorate the body and soften the mind, it paves way for the next few limbs, which are so we have pranayama, which is the breath practice, and then pratyahara is the ability to start to turn inward, to detach the senses from the outside world and begin the meditative practice inwardly. And then the two concepts that follow, dhyana and dharana, are extensions, deeper layers of that meditative practice. And ultimately, all of this creates conditions for us to experience the eighth limb, which is samadhi, or bliss. And bliss is not somewhere that we achieve and stay there. It's not a top of the mountain experience. It's not reserved only for the gurus and the brahmins, right? It's reserved also for householders, for us, those of us who are doing yoga in our everyday lives, right? These are Indian caste concepts based on the way yoga was created in its country of origin in India. And so what samadhi is like, we learn to touch into all these layers. We learn to practice the philosophy, and then we learn to invigorate our body, and we learn techniques to come inward, and all of that practice all together creates conditions for us to experience bliss. And bliss is something that we touch into and then we fall away from, and then we touch into and we fall away from, right? It's not this meant to arrive and stay there. It's something that we can taste every single day. And so if you're doing a regular yoga practice and it's not leading you towards moments of touching into bliss, then I might ask you, like, how is your practice incomplete? And how can you create conditions through the vehicle of yoga to experience more moments of bliss in your life? And if you read the posts that I put on Instagram, so much of this comes back to having a relationship with yoga. And a relationship is something that is give and is also take, right? And in the West, we've been conditioned sort of to take. We pay for our membership, we show up for class, we receive the practice, and we're on our way, right? Again, it's not bad, it's not wrong, it's just the way our society is structured. But I'm here to call that into question and to say, what if we didn't simply consume the yoga and take the yoga? What if we received the yoga and then allowed it to heal us and create something so beautiful inside of us that we can't help but give it back, right? And that's the part that I'm here to talk about today through the vehicles of the niyamas. So the niyamas are inward practices for happiness and contentment. They give us confidence. They are inner observances. They are sort of these duties that we have towards ourselves, right? So these yamas are giving us a way to show up for ourselves and to have our own backs, niyamas rather. So the first one is Soucha, cleanliness, right? And one of my objectives with these teachings is to take us from the superficial layer into something deeper. All right, so Soucha is cleanliness. And if you practice in a yoga studio, what are the two main like wall hangings that you see in the locker room, right? You see ahimsa, or asteya, non-stealing, right? And then you also see Soucha is cleanliness. And forgive me, sometimes the Sanskrit kind of, my brain misfires. Asteya, non-stealing. So, those are, we see in the yoga studio, is like, don't take other people's shit in the locker room, and also put deodorant on so that you don't smell when you go into a group class, right? So how can we take Soucha, this call towards cleanliness and purity, how can we take that a little bit deeper? So maybe it starts with your physical body of, yes, actually cleaning yourself, cleaning your mat, cleaning your space, having an organized space around you. Like that could be a Soucha practice. And there's a lot of data out there that suggests that the more organized our conditions are, the more effective and productive we'll be. So just know that Soucha isn't only reserved for BO and mat cleanliness. It can be your whole world, a practice of Soucha, okay? But it can also come deeper into your habits, into your thoughts, into your judgments, your resentments, your old identities, your old stories, your old baggage, right? So that can be viewed through the lens of cleanliness as well. I was just talking to a fellow coach last week about something that I want to share, but I said I wasn't ready to share it yet because it doesn't feel clean yet, right? And that just means that I feel like my story is wrapped up into what I want to say, right? So where are you operating in your relationships that isn't clean? Where are you interfacing with yourself that isn't clean, right? Where you're wrapped up in your story or your resentments or these old burdens, okay? So this is one way to practice Soucha, is not only through your external world, but really noticing your thoughts and your judgments about yourself and others, and noticing whether they're coming from a clean place or sort of this like dirty, like I think of like a dirty lens, right? Like you're looking through a lens, and if like if your stuff, if your baggage, if your wounds are covering that lens, you're going to see things differently. Okay, so how can you clean it up in your lives to see things more clearly and to operate from that place of purity rather than impurity? Does anybody have any questions about that one? So we humans are multi-layered beings. So when we go to make change, it makes sense that we would incorporate that change on the multi layers of ourselves, right? And these yoga concepts are no different. The application is at multiple different layers, right? So it's up to you to decide like how you want to apply and where. We did that Reiki exercise so that you would be open. And so when this hits you, when you get that feeling of like, oh, that's me, it me, maybe write that down and have some examples of how you can practice these yogic concepts in your everyday life. The second niyama is Santosha, or contentment. There's this concept in yoga called vritti, and it's like the fluctuations of the mind. And what Santosha is, it's a softening of that internal vritti, the chatter on the inside. Some people call it a monkey mind. That's what I've heard it referred to. But all I know is that I've been in the yoga studio a lot lately, and it feels like people are waking up worried, right? And so the antidote to waking up worried might be Santosha, okay? So Santosha, contentment, is really this active practice of acceptance. And even deeper than acceptance, it's a practice of appreciation. All right. And I feel like appreciation is the bedrock of all relationships. All right. I'm living with my partner. I've never lived with anyone before. And really, truly, like, we get into the most trouble when one or both of us is feeling unappreciated by the other one. Right. And so Santosha just brings us back to this acceptance for the way things are, and also an active appreciation for everything that we have in life. All of my clients are probably sick of hearing this from me, but there's this book out there that my coach Lindsay Mango had us all read for our mastermind. It's called The Gap and the Gain, and I can never remember who writes it. The Gap, G-A-P, and the Gain, G-A-I-N. And this book is based on the principle of the wording of our U.S. Constitution. I find this so fascinating that our Constitution is worded to the effect of the Constitution opens up for us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Isn't that interesting? It's not life, liberty, and happiness. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what that means to me, and what that means in this book, The Gap and the Gain, is that we Americans, we Westerners, have grown really, really, really accustomed and really good to pursuing happiness, but not actually being happy. Ah, thank you, Twee. Benjamin Hardy. She knows, because we've talked about it a lot. So thank you, Twee. I appreciate you having my back there. I love you. No, so we as Americans have grown accustomed to pursuing happiness, but not actually being happy, right? We're good at chasing it. We're good at thinking about it. We're good at yearning for it. We're good at casting it out before us and then focusing on all the things that we don't have to get from point A to point B, and that's where the gap is. And you should read the book, because it's a way of seeing the world, of choosing to be in the gain of all that you've accomplished instead of being in the gap of all that you haven't accomplished yet. But in terms of Santosha, I really want to highlight that principle that we don't really know how to be happy. We know how to try to be happy, but we don't know how to really let it in and receive it and let it be good enough, because there's so many obstacles in our mind, that vritti of our expectations, the way we thought it would be, the way we think it should be, the way we want it to be when we look around and compare. Oh my goodness gracious. I think we could just do a whole teaching right on this topic. I know that expectation is my biggest lesson. Expectation, and turning it into celebrating every moment instead of expecting what I want out of every moment. That's sort of my life's work in many ways. So Santosha is a practice, my friends. It's not a one and done. It's not like I've done X, Y, and Z and now I'm content. It is a choice every day to choose not to yearn for, we can yearn for more. We just can't live in the lack of the yearning. Does that make sense? The yearning is beautiful, but then when we wake up every day and say, I'm not where I want to be, and then all we focus on is the not having, then that's the part that hurts us. So keep the beauty of the yearning without living in the discontentment that it's not here yet. Got it? So this is all a practice, right? This doesn't just happen automatically. These aren't things that we've taught. In fact, it's a practice because we've been conditioned otherwise. So in order to practice Santosha, remember that it's a focus on acceptance and appreciation. All right, amazing. Any questions there? How does that trip you up? Where's your opportunity to practice more contentment and appreciation with your life? Okay, so the third niyama is tapas, or discipline. And remember that all of these are in relationship with one another too. So when we talked about the first niyama, Soucha, or cleanliness, it was choosing to be in the purities instead of the impurities. Well, tapas is the discipline of burning those impurities away, right? So tapas is this resilience, this discipline, this staying power that allows us to stay in the fire of life and allow it to shape us and mold us into who life needs us to be. Okay, I think it's so beautiful. So tapas is this actual fire, and you might recognize this from your yoga practice. It's like staying in your physical yoga practice. It's like staying in the pose even when you want to move on from the pose. Okay, and how can that translate into our everyday life? Like, we're not staying in these postures just for the benefit of our muscles only. We're teaching our psyches, we're teaching our hearts, our minds to breathe through uncomfortable moments, right? And tapas is the ability to do that, not just in your body, but inwardly as well. Jessica, I'm reading yours, but then I like the session. What's happening? Yes, beautiful. There will always be more books to read. Jessica, we've talked about this a million times. Like, my toxic trait is that I have books piled all through my house that I hopefully want to get to one day. So yeah, we'll get to all the books. We'll get to all the things. the gap in the gain is really a helpful lens, and I think it might change things for a lot of us. So a lot of compassion. Again, all of this is a practice. All of this is a practice in trusting that you're receiving the information that you need to receive at the perfect time, and that nothing has gone wrong. You're not in a hurry, and you can take this all in as it comes to you, as it moves you, as it feels right to you. A lot of my work, honestly, is like I'll say things, I'll do things like this, and then I'll have people come back to me months later, and they'll say, you know, I listened to that morning ritual, and you said that thing about contentment and Santosha, and I can't stop thinking about it. And how do I incorporate that more? So just know that, like, sometimes you hear something and it jogs something in you, but it's not actually for you in this moment. It'll come back in a year from now, or 6 months from now, or 2 weeks from now, and we can trust all of that. I trust my journey. I trust your journey. I trust all of the things that are going on here. So beautiful. So if we consider tapas as this sort of being refined in the fire, what the yoga asks of us is to be willing to trust and stay in the fire, and trust and believe that it is growing us into who we need to be, that it is burning away our impurities, our stories, our baggage, and pulling forth, good morning, pulling forth, is that Vanessa? Pulling forth something new inside of us, right? So that's what tapas is. It's the ability to stay in the fire of life and to choose to trust that the fire is burning away our impurities, Soucha, and that the fire also is pulling us forward into who we are meant to grow into. There's a lot of similarities here, like a diamond, and I think the diamond is formed less by heat and more by pressure, right? And it's the same concept. It's like the pressure of life, the pressure cooker, the fire of life. Okay. And I feel like a lot of us are in this place right now where it feels like the walls are kind of closing in. I just know this from the conversations that I'm having out in the world. And so how can we as individuals and a collective see this as a time of profound and beautiful tapas, right? Gosh, I really like that. How are we all collectively in this burning, in this pressure cooker that can either squash us, right, and just crush us to smithereens, or it can make us even more beautiful. It can make us even more whole. It can pull forth the elements inside of us that are meant to radiate. Okay? So again, this is a practice too. It's a practice of endurance. It's a practice of staying power. It's a practice of allowing yourself to be refined in the fire. This is an action that can call you into your fiery passion and help you have a sense of purpose. All right, so this discipline, this ability to stay with the uncomfortable, is something that we experience in our bodies on our yoga mats in certain postures. And we are meant to take that ability that we create in our physical bodies and extend it into our emotions and into our thoughts and into our relationships and into our work, okay? To develop this resilience, to stay, not to just get the crap kicked out of us, but to stay and grow and be better for it. Ooh, so good. All right, so if you're in the pressure cooker, here's one thing I want to say too, is that if you set out an intention to life, if you're like, hey, I want to get stronger, or hey, I want to learn how to show up more regardless of how I feel, here's how your brain wants it to work. Your brain wants it to be like Santa Claus. Like, I asked for it and now I'm just going to get it, right? Like, oh, I want to be more patient. Cool. All of a sudden, I have more patience, right? That's how your brain thinks it's going to work. But how it actually is going to work is that if you say, I want to be stronger, I want to be more resilient, I want to be more patient, what's going to happen is that life is then going to say, really? Is that what you want? If so, Why don't you try it right here? Why don't you practice it right now? And so what's actually going to happen is life is going to not just give you more patience magically, it's actually going to give you challenging situations for you to cultivate your own patience. Right? Life is not going to just say, okay, Casey, you want to be more resilient? Here's a lot of muscles. Here's a lot of internal strength. It's going to say, all right, girl, gird your loins, roll up your sleeves, because I'm going to send some shit your way, and you're going to have the opportunity to either choose defeat or choose resilience. And I hope you want what it is that you say you want, because I'm here to give it to you. Okay? So I can't sugarcoat that part for you. It's just the way it goes, right? And I really think that our movies and our commercials and social media and stuff, it doesn't do us any service, because our expectations are way out of whack when it comes to these things. So just know that if you want these things, life will give you a chance to cultivate them for yourself. And I think that that is truly beautiful. Okay, 2 more. Svadhyaya, self-study. Svadhyaya is this ability to be onto yourself, right? To go inward, to understand yourself, to know yourself, and to work with the inner workings of your specific system. I've been saying for so many years that I thought that I needed to fix myself, right? When I was drinking, when like for the first 20 years of my adult life, I thought that I needed to be fixed. And now what I've come to know and believe with every fiber of my being is that none of us are things to be fixed, but we are all meant to be understood, right? And the more we understand ourselves, the more we understand how we're wired, why we do the things that we're do, then it feels so much easier to change. And it's been my experience that it's just the understanding in itself, the awareness in and of itself, that creates the most change at all. Right, so the awareness in and of itself is enough, is what I'm trying to say in many, many cases. Right, so Svadhyaya is that ability to look in the mirror, to take responsibility, to take ownership, to see yourself clearly. Sometimes you need an outside source to help you do this. And this is why therapy and coaching can be so powerful, is when you have someone on the outside of your life that is dedicated to walking with you on the inside of your life. Someone who isn't your family, someone who isn't your best friend, who can be objective, who can be on your side, and who can really speak to you directly and say the hard things to you that the other people in your life might not be willing to say, right? So that can all be part of Svadhyaya, self-study, and that is why I'm a coach, is helping people develop the awareness of themselves, helping people understand how they were raised, the conditioning that they've received, how they've gotten to the point that they are now, and what they want to do with it, how they want to unweave those cycles and take that energy and reweave it into something that actually serves. This is how we change our epigenetics. This is how we change our family line in real time, is learning how to go inward, to sit with what we see there, and then to interface with it in a way that actually moves us differently. Oh, I get so excited about this. So Svadhyaya, it's about being on to yourself. It's about taking responsibility, but it's also about feeding yourself with the information and knowledge and wisdom that really ignites you. It's about studying the things that educate you and inspire you and fascinate you, right? So it's about really like playing into your own inner wiring and parsing it apart and also nourishing it. Oh, and I think that that's a big part of what we do here, right? Would you say that this morning ritual is based, it's rooted in the niyama of Svadhyaya, of self-study, and so is coaching. Oh, so good. Any questions about Svadhyaya? We'll move on. This is our final niyama, and it's called Ishvarapranidhana. Ishvarapranidhana. And it's all about surrendering to a higher power, right? So we've taken all of these internal mechanisms of cleanliness, of contentment, of inner discipline, of inner awareness and self-study. And then at the end of all of that, what is the final action? Is to surrender. I feel myself getting emotional, to surrender to God, whatever your interpretation of who God is, to let go of your expectations, right? To do your best, to be authentic, to live fully, and let go of your story and your expectations, right? So this is the belief that there is somehow, some way, something bigger than all of us operating, right? And that we're meant to be here for a reason, and that reason is bigger than us, and that ultimately we are meant to just open our hands and let it all go, whilst practicing all of these things inside of ourselves at the same time. Okay, so this release of, it's this balance of doing our own internal work, of showing up fully, of doing our part, our side of the equation, and then releasing the other side, right? And trusting. So much of this work comes back to trust. I talk to my clients about this all day, every day. Is the trust in yourself, right? Trust in life, trust in others. So my question to you is, what do you need to believe about yourself or about life that will allow you to trust? Or what are the barriers, the resistance to allowing yourself to fully trust? When I theme in a yoga class about Ishvarapranidhana, the theme is that in order to win the battle, you must set down your weapons. That's the crux of Ishvarapranidhana. If you want to win the fight, stop fighting. Right? So what does it look like for you to set down your weapons and surrender so that you might win? Okay? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you in your life? Where is your opportunity right now to set down your weapons and trust? All right, my friends? And what this does is all that vritta, the vrittis, the worry that we're all waking up with right now, the worry and the stressful thoughts, is that Ishvarapranidhana allows us to ease that worry. And it actually offers us a chance to be empowered, right? To let go of the things that we cannot control and focus our energies on the things that we can, all while just believing that there's something greater that will move us through all of this. All right. So hopefully I've given you some nice windows into your own being, your own soul. What sticks out for you the most today? Where is the portal that you would like to enter into today? Where's the loophole that you'd like to jump through today to start to practice this right here, right now? I'd love to know. Is it through cleanliness? Is it through contentment? Through discipline? Through self-study? Or through surrendering to something higher, to something bigger? Like, where is your moment? Where is your peace right now? And how can you practice this yoga for yourself off of the mat? And how can you, through that internal practice of your everyday life, start to make the life of those around you even better? Right? Because this is meant to be a relationship. We understand things more clearly when we understand them for ourselves first. And that's what the yoga is meant to do, right? It's a highly personal practice that can fill us up, right? And then the practice then is to choose not to stop there, right? It's to allow the yoga to heal you, to inform you, to transform you, and then to take that transformation out into the world to be the change that you wish to see in the world, right? To be a living, the yoga in action, to be a living, breathing vehicle mechanism for these principles. So what that might look like is to go out into the world and have clean relationships. It might look like developing staying power in your relationship, to be resilient, to allow yourself to be pressurized into the diamond, right? It might be developing the willingness to go inward. And maybe you hire me as your coach and we start that process together right now, right? Of going inward and understanding how you've arrived at the place that you're in and how you would like to move yourself forward out of it, right? Where is your opportunity? Surrender I feel so scared to trust, so I need to be okay with being uncomfortable because I can trust I'll keep myself safe. That's so beautiful. So that's such a great point, Jess, is that trusting also, it's like it's opening yourself up to being held by life, and it's also couched in the belief that you are capable of moving yourself through whatever life hands you. And again, back to my previous point, is that you don't get to find that out if you don't open yourself up to it. Like, you don't just wake up one morning and say, oh, I have all this self-trust, right? The way you develop self-trust is by opening yourself up and then showing up for yourself when you need to. So opening yourself up, surrendering, and then having your own back when it calls for it, right? And so then when you do have your own back, it's like, oh, I can trust myself. See, I just proved it, and now I have all this evidence to carry with me forth into the next opportunity. And then the next opportunity, you open yourself up and you're like, oh, gotta show up for myself, gotta have my own back. And then you do, and then your self-trust increases, right? And so gradually over time, it's cumulative. All of this work is cumulative. All right, so yeah. What does trust feel like to you? What does trust feel like if you envision it permeating all of your cells? Maybe that could be a helpful visualization to really practice the feeling and the sensation of trust, and then using that feeling and sensation to lead you into the action. Anything else? Any questions? Any shares? Any main takeaways from our practice together today? It's so beautiful to be with all of you. So as I wait for anything to come back up into the chat, let's return our hands to the sky once more as a gesture of receiving the love, and also just gratitude. Gratitude that we are held. Gratitude that there is this beautiful love that surrounds us all and permeates us all. And gratitude for this amazing practice that we get to experience here in the West. And that the opportunity to study this practice, and that we might honor it by truly living it, by truly letting it change us, and by taking that change out into the world. And hand to your heart, hand to your belly. Just feel the support of the universe. Feel the love of God. Know that you are here for a reason, for a purpose, that we need you. We need you. History is not complete without you right here, right now, in this moment. May we all feel compelled to bring our most vibrant, healed, and full selves to the table. May we all do our own internal work to burn away any impurities that do not serve us, that we might live in our fullness and bring our fullness to this broken world that needs us so desperately. Just feel that in your heart, feel that in your belly. Let it permeate every cell of your being. And take a full breath in and a big breath out. Open your eyes once more. You know, my friends, I truly believe that if everyone did yoga, if everyone was in a conversation like this, that things would be different. So thank you to those of you who've shown up. Please, if this work touches you, can I ask that you please start sharing it with your friends? Start forwarding these lives to your friends. Let's help spread this. I know from my own experience and from the work that I do with my clients that this work changes lives. So I ask for your help to help me share it with more and more people. So now's the time, if you've been on the fence, to lean into this work. Let me support you. Let me help you. Let me be your eyes from the outside looking in. Coaching is so beautiful. The way that I view it is that, you've been walking along the path of your life with your headlamp on, right? And so you see what you see. But when I come alongside of you from a slightly different angle and my light shines on the path of your life, then we just get to see things in a little different light. You might get to see things that you haven't seen before, or you might get to see things in a new way. And I can't even begin to tell you the power of all of that, right? We aren't meant to do this alone. We aren't meant to do this in a vacuum. Let someone like me in to walk with you, to support you, to help you see the things that you don't see, so that the unconscious can become conscious, so that the unseen can become seen, so that you can take all of that knowledge, that wisdom, and fuel yourself forward, just like the beautiful diamond. All right, you literally have to make me stop talking. I love you all so much.